I tend to find inspiration always comes more fluently after I've taken a break from music itself. I've noticed that a lot of the times that I come back from like going to Australia or I come back from somewhere, I'll pick up with, fresh airs and I let the hands do the work most of the times. I mean, I've seen so many amazing musicians, touring over the last couple of years. I wouldn't say that I'm like a magical gifted musician, but I do like to speak the language of music whenever I can.
Welcome to the Flying Universe podcast. With me today, I have the talented musician Nadav, which has many titles for his music, from even psy-trance, psychedelic kind of going into drum, and you have this musical instrument which plays more than 1,000 beats, supposedly, right, with your guitar and acoustics. What would you tell the people out there? How would you describe your music? Which category do you fall into?
Well, first of all, lovely meeting you, and thank you so much for having me. Wow, it is the question that I always kind of come back to. What am I doing, and how do I describe it to people, especially outside of a concert context? Someone goes, "Oh, you're a musician. What do you do?" And I just kind of sit there and ponder, what do I do? Because I grew up, originally with a big influence of rock and heavy metal. And then with time, I moved over to the acoustic guitar. And, I've been playing in a guitar duo for 12 years, this kind of flamenco rock experimental music. And then over the last couple of years, I've really delved into this kind of almost organic trance sound, but it really varies because sometimes, yeah, I like to go a little more hard hitting, maybe like Hilight Tribe-esque, where I've got some, percussion and some chanting, almost to some really like down tempo. Um, I call it kind of cinematic ambient music because I'm also a big fan of, that kind of Hans Zimmer cinematic ambient music. So live, it's a really mixed bag. Like I do like to take it down and really get down to earth, but I also like to experiment and also have fun, get the crowd involved and just give some experimentational stuff. So I don't know if we could really put a label on it in terms of a genre, but it's definitely, yeah, it's just me.
Yeah, and there's a big part of your music being around looping, right? You use loop live with everything that you're doing.
Yeah, that's correct. So like 90% of what I do is looped. I have just a couple of like I say pre-programmed beats that are installed in this little pad that I have. But they're really basic beats that just come on to like help the music. What's interesting with the looping, it's like it's developed over time now where I feel so comfortable live that I've decided, or at least last year, I've decided to get the audience involved to sometimes give a number on that electronic pad, and then I'll be given a random sound that I have to try and make a loop with or a song. And it's quite
Wow.
interesting because that will kind of like give the tone, maybe it's a steel pan drum, or maybe it's a tabla, or maybe, it's a different sound. So that will give me like, okay, this is kind of the mood, the ambience. And it went as far as I was I was having a really how would you say? I felt really good about improvisation the last concert that I did in Australia, and a little boy came to me on the break and he drew me a race car, and I said, I'm going to do you a song about race cars, just improvise something like that. And so I had to make all these, I mean, like, I didn't have to, but I decided to make this song how I would imagine, like the soundtrack to a racing movie, including car sound effects, which it was super fun, It was just, again, really wacky, really wacky.
How different is the recordings you make in a studio to the energy that you bring in live? Would you say they're kind of vastly different, or you go with the flow?
I wouldn't say they're vastly different. Um, for sure, the later ones that I'm going to be releasing are more similar to the live aspect. So I released an EP maybe 2 years ago, 2 years ago now, yeah. Um, and it was a little bit more tribal, so a little bit more shamanic in some senses. And that's what I was doing at the time, and I still do quite a few of those songs. Um, I guess what I haven't gotten around to recording is some of the more quirky ones that just pop out. But I don't know if I will, like I don't know if I will record those ones because, it's kind of nice to have a something that's on the moment, something that you can kind of share with people on the moment rather than, having something that you set in stone and that's there for all of time. Whereas there's other tracks, I released the Magic Garden last year, and that it's a funny process because that song came about from a song that I wrote live. I came back, I think, from Australia. I sat down and said to myself, I want a song. I've had this kind of riff stuck in my head. I took out my live gear, I started looping it, and then we went out into the back garden. We filmed this, one take thing, and I just liked the vibe of it. And I said, you know what? I'll call it the Magic Garden because where we're living here in north of France, where it used to be like an ancient marsh, and so the ground is really fertile. And so when we grow our veggies, we don't actually need to water them when we go away. So in summer, it's amazing. And so we just let everything grow, and so we call it the Magic Garden. And so that song actually came from just like from the live aspect. So it is very similar in a lot of ways, apart from it's a little bit more produced and, I'm playing a actual, nice Spanish guitar on the recording and things like that. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of similarities. It's just the one thing is the improvisations. Sometimes they'll get a little wacky and out of hand.
What's what's coming to me now is what is the inspiration to your music?
It's Again, it varies. For me, inspiration always comes from sound itself.
Mm.
So a new instrument, a new guitar, or trying something. And I tend to find inspiration always comes more fluently when after I've taken a break from music itself. I've noticed that a lot of the times that I come back from like going to Australia or I come back from somewhere, I'll pick up with, fresh airs and I let the hands do the work most of the times. Um, Sometimes I'll have an idea just come to me. Like I knew last year when I came back that I had a show opening up for Hilight Tribe in France. And I thought to myself, like, what would be a great what would be a great song that would really fit them before they get on, to help lift that concert up. And so I just had this idea of this kind of this mix actually. It was like this classical mix with electronic music, which I really love actually when you mix classical and electronic music. And so I just kind of, okay, well, I want to start with bass guitar or something low and just like a kick drum, and that was the start of a song. And then it just developed where I was like, okay, I could maybe bow some stuff on the guitar, and inspiration just kind of falls like that. um yeah, that's how it flows for me. Sometimes the ideas come to the hands and sometimes they come from the head.
If I hear you correctly, you're telling me that basically you're a natural gifted magical musician,
I wouldn't say that.
or would you
I
say
would
that
I
there
would
was a lot of practice coming to it?
I would say that I learned via ear. I never studied music itself.
Mm.
And so it becomes almost a language. And sometimes, I mean, I've seen so many amazing musicians, touring over the last couple of years. I wouldn't say that I'm like a magical gifted musician, but I do like to speak the language of music whenever I can.
What is that language?
It's a it's an interesting language because sometimes you feel like a foreigner, and then other times it feels like home. Um, it's super interesting because you can take that language anywhere in the world and you can speak it with other people who don't speak a similar language to you. I've gone to countries where like you don't necessarily understand, a language in common, but music is there. So it's a beautiful language. I have to say, yeah, there's something about music and vibrations and how you can resonate with someone or even nature itself. That's a big thing for me. I love getting lost in nature, and part of the reason I still travel back to Australia every year is to go out there, and sometimes I'll take the guitar or ukulele or, a pocket didgeridoo and just go out into the nature and just be there with the birds or probably snakes as well. But be there and just connect. Yeah, it's
Was
pretty
there
cool.
was there a time in your life where you began to understand the language of the music that you're speaking of, or did it just happen and you were in it?
I mean, there's a connection that I felt to it when I was younger. I was doing a lot of art and, acting, this is talking, when I was like very young, uh, probably before I was 13. And then around the age of 13, a friend showed me the guitar and showed me Metallica. And it was just, I was absolutely drawn to it, but I didn't know why. And it drew others to it as well. I felt like, oh, there's something here. And I was obsessed when I was young. I'd spend hours in my room, locked away, playing everything and anything I could. And I don't think it was until later in life when I started playing with Opal Ocean and we had people coming up to us on the street or messaging online and saying like how much our music changed their day, how much they needed it,
Mm.
especially so we came from busking, playing in the street. And when you're playing in the street, you deal with everything. And you also deal with people who are going through anything you can imagine. Sometimes they're having the best day of their life, sometimes it's the worst. But I do know that music speaks to them and it speaks to them when they need it. And so it was pretty, we've had, many times people come up and just let us know how that moment changed,
Mm.
their outcome for the day or their outlook. So I think that's when it started to really resonate with me. It's like, hey, you're not just, doing a hobby. It's something you're connecting with people. And now I'm finding that more than ever with my solo concerts. It's, the discussions I have with people and also the people it brings. It really is, you attract the right kind of people, which is pretty amazing. Like I guess it depends on what you're playing. Sometimes, when I was back in the day, the rock metal scene, okay, you get a mixed bag for sure. But I definitely feel like this more organic, down to earth music, it's really beautiful because the people that it attracts are just the best. Absolutely the best people. And that's what I really love is the community surrounding it for sure.
Yeah, that's amazing. I saw one of your YouTube videos and you're on the street, like you said, and you had quite a big setup. And I was thinking to myself, this must have taken like a lot of effort, to like be there to play. And it didn't look like someone who's just pulling out a guitar in the middle of a subway station and playing. It just felt like you were there with intention. And now connects fully with what you share, right? That's how I see it in that way. And when it comes to the community, where do you feel your people are? Are they like in the clubs? Are they in the bars? Are they in like cafes? Are they in festivals?
They're in the forest. No, I think they're everywhere. So how would I say? Yeah, going back, maybe 7 years ago, we did a tour with Opal Ocean in New Zealand, and me and my partner, we traveled around in the van. We also slept in the van. And that's when we realized that we really actually loved that way of traveling. And just after or during COVID, so we were in Melbourne, Australia during COVID, which has had one of the longest lockdowns in the world. And we decided to buy a van and kind of do it up like a camper van. So as soon as that it was, we could get out, we went out and we just fell in love with the people and the sense of adventure. Um, and so, some of the people are there traveling around, but they're kind of spread out everywhere. I mean, I love the festival scene. It is always great. Um, but I know that when I'm traveling in the van, for sure, I always find people to connect with, people open-minded, free spirit, people who love nature, want to travel. So that's definitely where some of my people are.
Where do you enjoy yourself playing the most?
Where?
Where? Like in which setting?
Um, in which setting? It's a hard one because I love festivals for sure, but sometimes people are drawn to many things at a festival. Maybe they'll see a bit of your show and then they've got to shoot off because there's someone else starting, or there's a lot going on. It's nice for people in that sense to just kind of discover you and have that sense of, oh, I didn't know who this person was, and
Mm.
just to connect that way. But there is also something really beautiful about being, in a concert, or putting on a show where, yeah, you kind of control the overall ambience of the evening. So I think I do like aspects of both, but probably lean towards sometimes, yeah, the club shows where you can take people on a full journey and they are there for that. And yeah, you're kind of like, uh, how would you say, the pilot of the evening with my musical spaceship.
Do you think that people who come to see your show kind of know what to expect, or do you surprise them every time?
I think, for example, like I played a lot of shows here in the northern part of France now. So I've got a little group that always comes to the shows and I know they're going to be there. I think they're still surprised by the improvisations,
Mm.
which is cool. And I think that's also why I've really liked keeping the improvisational part of the journey, because it means that if someone's seen me once, they're not going to get sick of it because they don't know what to expect. And to be honest, I don't know what to expect. But yeah, most people, if they come to a show, even though they might see things online, they don't really get a full aspect of it, I think.
Mm.
And that's exciting. I think that's a really cool part of it, is just, yeah, expressing something that they've never really seen or heard before. It's fun. It's really cool.
And you mentioned earlier that you, before the call, was you're touring in the UK soon.
Yes, I am. So in about, very soon, I reckon about 2 weeks' time, I'll be heading over to the UK, and I'm going to be doing about 3 weeks of tour there, which I'm really excited because I've been once before. I did a very small number of shows, but I just met the most beautiful people, and
Mm.
I really look forward to reconnecting with them and also exploring some new areas I haven't been. And It's nice always to express in my native language as well, which is English, because I've been living in France and my France is still not the best.
And I see. And when there is that space within your journey of noticing and reflecting with where you are now and where you're heading into, what do you see that what's coming up for you now in terms of your musical journey?
I think there's, it's actually, yeah, I've been thinking about this even before the call. Where am I? Where am I heading to? What do I aspire to? And I do think like mentioned before, I'm at a bit of a crossroads, a bit of a mystery because I've been doing, this other project for so long. Um, I, yeah, there's a lot of things to reflect about here, but I think one of the main things I want to do is I want to start to give people a better idea musically what I'm about. Because like I said, that there's some things online, but you don't get the whole picture. I'd like to fill in some of those gaps
Mm.
just to help people understand. And I do want to put out more music more consistently and more often because I do feel like I'm at a point now, I just want to keep writing. I want to get on that train of recording and don't stop. I want to keep putting out things. And I'm excited because I am going to be releasing an EP and I've got my first vinyl arriving soon, which is like side A is my old EP and side B is the new, more electronic side. So I'm excited to have that out, and then I've got kind of a semi list and semi ideas of what songs I'm going to record next. Um, because when I started this journey, it was all improvisation, and over time I picked my favorite improvisations, and they became songs. But now I have like a whole set of songs which are unrecorded. So I'm like, okay, that's where I'm at right now. It's like I want to focus on getting those on the books and then explore new things. So yeah,
That's beautiful. What is the when people come to see you, what is it that you wish they or hope for them to take away from your show?
I think I don't know if they necessarily need to take something away from the show, but I do want to transport them somewhere else while they're at the show. I do want to take them away and experience something or just get away from the day to day because I do feel music is one of the best, escapes from stress and from, there's a lot going on in the world right now.
Mm.
But when you're there at a concert or, it might not be a concert, whatever, just take someone away for that space of time. I think that's very important. And so for me, if I can transport these people so they're not worried about, oh, I have to go to work tomorrow or I've got these bills or, there's all these problems, I want to get them to step out and into something else, take them on a journey which makes them not have to think or not have to worry about what's going on. I think that's my main goal there.
Mm. And I just as a one-off question, is would you say your music is connected to any specific source or energy that you have, you know, gone through in your life?
I wouldn't say one specific source, but sometimes multiple. Depends on the songs. I think some songs represent more to me than others. My wife's grandfather passed last year, and every time I play this one specific song, I wrote it during that time. And I do ask people to come into the space and, to think of, their loved ones or people that they've lost. So sometimes this source, it changes depending on the song. I wouldn't say there's one specific. Sometimes if I'm feeling in a quirky mood, you might get a quirky, weird improvisation just because it's fun. And I think I do like to share all types of emotions during the concert because
Mhm.
I'm a human, and so sometimes I like to be wacky and a bit eccentric, but sometimes I like to take it down, and ground, or sometimes I just feel like rocking out and getting people to dance because it's part of that taking people on a journey that I love is they don't know what to expect, but it's very much like, the wave of life, we're just all riding it. So yeah, I guess there's not one source would be the would be the answer to your question there.
That's beautiful. And a question I ask everybody on this podcast is if I was going to a stranger on the street to invite them into seeing your show, what would the invitation sound like?
What would it sound like?
So it starts with like, hey, there's this guy, Nadav, he's playing down the corner at XYZ. He, you know,
Yeah, I mean, you should ask them what kind of music do they like. I'm sure he'll be playing it. But I think, yeah, probably something to do with journey, whether it's journey music, you know, people have said it's quite shamanic in parts. Um, but again, there's also aspects, I'd say an eclectic mix of music. I do like to come back to organic trance a lot as well because I do like the electronic side and I mix it with organic music. Um, but that only covers a little bit. And I guess this goes back to your first question on how I kind of describe the music. But I think the main thing is if you see someone on the street, just say, "Hey, do you want to come see Nadav? He's going to take you on a musical journey that you haven't experienced."
nice. I love that. Yeah. And I've been kind of shying away from asking that question of, how I could also feel the shamanic music energy in what you produce. And, I'm sure there's a big essence of maybe where that's coming from or where that's connected to how you're bringing that out to people. And I think that's also just a
Mm,
part of your talent, a part of your gift of how you said, like, you're in multiple spheres all at once sometimes, and you bring out
yeah,
the multi-dimensional music for people, right? And that's how you go with your
yeah. Look,
improvisation.
there's a lot of people. It's quite funny. There's a lot of people who come up after the show and ask if I'm shamanic because the music for them is quite shamanic in parts. And for me, I don't intend to be a shaman. But in the same sense, I intend to take people away from where they are
Mm.
and not necessarily give them a structure or a set idea, but give them the opportunity to get away from, like I said, the worries, in life and to escape. So whether that would be considered part of, what a shaman does, that's up to how people interpret it.
Love that. I love that. And before the call ends, where else are you playing? Where are you? What's coming up for you in the summer? Some festivals here and there.
Yeah, look, I can't off the top of my head remember which ones I'm allowed to announce, but I will say I'm going to be going to near Barcelona for an awesome festival. I'm going to be heading to Hungary. I've got another one in France called Gaia Festival, which has been announced. So I'll be bouncing around this summer. And obviously, I'm in touch with Lou and Emily, my partner. She's in touch with Lou, and hopefully, we can get some opportunities again to come out your way. I would absolutely love that. The vibe is there's a good vibe over there.
Nice, nice.
Um, so yeah, I'll be bouncing around this summer, and also, funnily enough, it just arrives at the same time that we're going to try move to the east of France this year. So there's a lot going on. So I think it will balance itself out. So I don't have like a super busy summer, which will enable time to ground somewhere else and to find a little home. So yeah, I'll be around.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on here, Nadav, and just sharing your wisdom and your insights into how you play your music and the energy you bring. So appreciative of your presence. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you so much. It was a
Mm.
pleasure speaking with you.
Looking forward to
Thanks.
seeing you live and looping like a maestro.
Yeah, looking forward to meeting you in person. You look like you have a great hair routine, which I need to know more about.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Nadav.